Hello and welcome to the Lou Review. I'm your host, Rosa Hart, and today my guest is Mr. Vaughn Barnes of Nerd Nite.
Hey, what's up? What's up?
Thank you so much for being with me today.
And thank you for having me.
And you're with Nerd Nite Louisville, but not just Louisville. There's a couple different places that you run, right?
That is correct. So Nerd Nite Louisville was the first opportunity that I had to host an event out here. My goal was to actually start Nerd Nite Lexington, but the guy that was running Nerd Nite Louisville passed away in 2023. His co-host at the time was getting ready to move, and she decided with some other friends to say, hey, since you're going to be doing Nerd Nite Lexington, which is what I currently run as well, why don't you take over Nerd Nite Louisville? So
nice.
I started running Nerd Nite Louisville solo from July 2023 till December, and then I brought on my own co-host, and then January 2024 started Nerd Nite Lexington, and then April of 2024 started Nerd Nite Bluegrass.
Man, it's just growing and blossoming. And so what is a Nerd Nite? Let's define this. Is it like a game night?
So I could define Nerd Nite in like almost one sentence. It's like a tipsy TED Talk.
Nice.
It happens at a bar. 3 people come up, they have slides, they have presentations, and then they talk about the thing that they're passionate about, but also teach. Christ, sorry about that. Continue.
Yeah, I have, I can get that. Are you good? Okay. So, Nerd Nite was not your brainchild then. Who started it originally?
So, Nerd Nite was started by 2 people. I can't even tell you their names, but they were in Boston. They did it in Boston at a bar where they would go out and drink. The guy would always fly out of the country, go do really cool things, but then come back to this dive bar and tell the bartenders about what he was doing. And the bartenders always was like, why don't you do a presentation about some of this stuff?
Yeah.
And he thought, what? Nobody's going to care about this.
Aww.
He does this presentation, but he asked some of his friends to come and do other presentations about things that they like. And it happened to be a thing. And then the friend brought it to New York, where he was from. The roommate brought it to New York, where he was from. And then from there, it blossomed throughout the world. So there's some in Tokyo, Australia.
Oh, wow.
Different cities across America, some in Europe. I mean, it's all over for real.
Yeah, okay. So so you said it's like TED Talk. So I guess if somebody's going to have a TED Talk, then they have to have a lot of like branding, be consistent and stuff like that. How much of that do you have to deal with Nerd Nite?
Well, each location is city centric. So with Louisville and what was started in Louisville, there's a lot of just everything around the fleur-de-lis. So the original OG Nerd Nite logo is just like almost like a stick figure glasses with a spotlight. Well, every location modifies that look to have their own look. With Louisville, it's the fleur-de-lis and glasses.
Okay. I really like your shirt. It has the fleur-de-lis and glasses on it with like some stars for eyes. And like if you aren't immediately thinking fleur-de-lis, it kind of looks like a bird. A bird wearing glasses. So
that's funny. I never even thought about that.
But I had to do a double take when I saw it the first time.
But yeah, it's the stars. So the 2 stars was on this logo. When I designed the Nerd Nite Lexington logo, I did 3 stars and a horseshoe. Because, Lexington horses.
Yeah.
It just made sense.
Horse identity there.
Right. And as people that I would do, like, they would ask, oh, could you do a Nerd Nite here? Could you do a Nerd Nite here? And I laughed about it. I was like, when I was looking for a place to host Nerd Nite, nobody showed up.
And now that you have a place, they're like, can you move it though?
Yeah, oh my gosh. And then I said no a couple times, and I thought about it. I was like, well, if there's one in Louisville and that has its home at Gravely, The other one in Lexington has its home at Blue Stallion.
Mm-hmm.
What if there was a third, but that third didn't have a home and it moved to all of the other places in Kentucky that had people that potentially could speak? Because, Louisville and Lexington can't have all the smart people.
No.
There has to be more smart people
exactly.
in Kentucky.
And people who are doing exciting things.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, that's kind of what I'm doing with this podcast is like meeting new people who are doing unique, exciting things that in general make the Louisville area
right.
Unique and worth visiting or living in. And
correct.
I think Nerd Nite is definitely one of those things. I know several friends who have given TED Talks, and a lot of the emphasis is on, share your big one idea. So with Nerd Nite, would you say it's a little more flexible in that you don't have to necessarily be sharing something that's unique and no one's ever thought of this before?
Yeah.
But it's just something they think everybody should know about.
Nerd Nite's definitely a lot more loose. Mm-hmm. 1 or 2 drinks in, people are having a little bit more fun. It's a casual event. The night that I was a speaker, I talked about chickens.
I love chickens.
And then
tell me about chickens. What did you tell us about?
Oh, so my Nerd Nite presentation, there was a viral type of video going around on the internet where if you had 3 chickens and if everybody had 3 chickens, how much waste would they remove from landfills? Oh, yeah. And I did the math on it. The maths. It works. Calculations worked out really well. And I talked about that and then brought it to a Louisville perspective. What if we did all have chickens? What would it look like? And it was almost like prime time because that's when egg prices were going high. And everybody kept making the videos about
whether or not their eggs were laying.
Chickens are laying eggs, or people were hoarding eggs and bagging them up like it was something crazy. So it was great timing. January 2023. Fast forward, the other people that spoke that night, one person spoke about storytelling, the art of storytelling, and then the other person talked about their favorite X-File episodes.
Okay.
So it's really just a wild assortment of presentations that could happen at Nerd
People
Nite.
just geeking out over something.
Nerding out, yep.
All right, I love it. Or do you have an opinion on the difference between a nerd and a geek, or nerding out versus geeking out, or are you just staying on brand?
Staying on brand, but there is a difference, and I don't have the whole definition down, but there's like a difference between geek, nerd, dork. All 3 are different, but if there was one to be, I would be a nerd. I wouldn't be a geek. I wouldn't be a dork.
Nice. It sounds nice, doesn't it? Because they say nerds rule the world, right?
Well, that, and it's not something that you could feel like you should ever be ashamed of, because like to nerd out about something is like you're really digging into it and you like it enough to do what you're doing with it
and learn all the details.
Yeah.
I've been nerding out over travel hacking with points and miles. I'm learning about that lately, and I think I listened to like 300 podcast hours of episodes about it. And I am not usually a person who likes to learn about numbers,
right?
But when it's in this context, it's clicking. So
I get it.
Maybe I'll do a Nerd Nite about it.
I'm always looking for speakers. Nerd Nite Bluegrass is always looking for speakers.
In different locations.
In different locations, yes.
All over Kentucky, I assume. So is that like the only border for it, just within the Kentucky
Yep, inside
borders?
Kentucky, correct. So to talk a little bit about Nerd Nite Bluegrass, the one difference that it has over the other 2 Nerd Nites in Kentucky is that it moves. Nerd Nite Louisville will not leave Gravely. It's gonna stay at Gravely. Nerd Nite Lexington will not leave Blue Stallion unless these 2 breweries say, you know what, we don't want to hear anymore. It's not leaving. But Nerd Nite Bluegrass, it can go anywhere. Our first one happened at Shippingport, which was almost a year after Bentley passed, to happen at shipping port and it be like the place where at least that one started, because
Oh.
Nerd Nite Louisville was always going to be at Gravely.
Mm-hmm.
We did his, Memorial Day that April last year. This April, I didn't want to do something at Gravely again.
Mm-hmm.
I felt like because he worked at shipping port,
Mm-hmm.
the owner there was really tight with him. The person that does trivia there, they all tight. It was just like his home bar.
Yeah.
It was right around the corner from his place. It's like, why not do Nerd Nite Bluegrass here?
Mm-hmm.
So we hosted it there, and then
Cool.
it was a good successful night.
That's fantastic. So you gave a talk and then they asked you to like take over it. I assume you were like attending all of them and you were working on building up for Lexington, right?
Mm-hmm.
To like learning from them how to run it for the purpose of starting the Lexington branch, basically.
Pretty much.
Okay.
When I attended, I was invited to Nerd Nite as a date, and it was like, I'll go to Nerd Nite. Who cares? And I went. I was like, oh my goodness, it's pretty cool. It's not as bad as I thought it was gonna be.
Yeah.
And again, learning about just nerd culture. What is nerd culture? Somebody that is really enthusiastic about the thing that they are enthusiastic about.
Mm-hmm.
And that was it. I said, well, I could write one of these. And at the same time that I was looking into it about doing one, I got accepted to do a TED Talk. So just
yay.
like, holy crap, I got to worry about this
Was it about
TED
the
Talk.
same topic at all? Or?
Yeah, my TED Talk was about food insecurity in Louisville and in Kentucky, and how we could work on eradicating that. But Nerd Nite.
Oh my gosh.
I swear I'll get back to it.
Oh, good.
And I'll try to tie it up real quick.
No, it's all good.
It was maybe 2 or 3 times that I attended. I talked to Bentley because, again, we were friends, and he said, well, why don't you do one? Can you do one? I was like, yeah, can I do January? Because I knew I had the TED Talk at Bellarmine in February.
Mm-hmm.
He was like, you sure you want to do them back to back? I was like, heck yeah, I need the practice.
That's right.
And even though the talk wasn't the same,
Mm-hmm.
the material was just something I wanted to be fresh on.
Mm-hmm.
So I could just stand there, speak about it, speak in front of
Yeah.
people, gauge the crowd, learn how everybody would interact with me speaking, and then I'll be good for the TED.
Mm-hmm.
And then again, fast forward, everything happens.
Nice
It's
tipsy
just like,
crowd
all right.
to break you in for the TED Talk.
Exactly. But with food insecurity and just the things that I do in the city now, it's all about fundraising, all about trying to find vacant lots, vacant spaces, and put something, a perennial, a garden, fresh flowers, anything that uplifts people, anything that gets food access to people, anything that makes it easier for people to say they got something fresh, because it's not always that people have that, and then the people that suffer the most have it the least. And in those cases, that I've looked at, when people are not getting the right food, not getting access to fresh fruits and vegetables, that's really where problems start.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
that's right. You need those healthy building blocks
Yeah.
for a healthy life. Yeah.
healthy life, nonviolent life, all of the above. Like it's all of it.
Yeah.
I look at and I had a friend that he gave a talk in Georgia about all of the national murders that were happening with police brutality. If you look, one thing that was a big correlation was the fact that it all had something to do with food. Whether somebody was coming from a corner store with candy and had a hoodie on, or was standing in front of a corner store to sell cigarettes, to make money, to buy food, or was leaving a grocery store and said, oh, you have fake money, but it all correlates to food. And it was just like, man, damn, I never even thought about that. How near and dear is food to all of these situations? But if food access was solved, does this problem still persist? We don't know yet because we haven't solved it. So we got to try.
I mean, I think we're all familiar with the term hangry,
Yes.
right? So
Yes.
people who are not hungry are generally more content. And that goes for everybody, I'm pretty sure. Right?
I mean, that, what was it, 1970 something, Bob Marley said, a hungry man is an angry man?
Yeah.
I mean,
I resemble that, okay? Man. You can ask my husband. Like, if I'm getting too irritated, he's like, okay, we need to feed mama now. He's a little more even-tempered than me, but I think it affects everybody. So, yeah, I hear what you're saying, and I'm joking about it, but at the same time, I really respect what you're doing to address that, because especially, like, you know, West Louisville has a lot of... Yeah. It's a food desert, and I know a lot of different organizations are trying to address that, but, I mean, as much as we need to do to make a dent.
Yeah, and that's exactly it. Even if it's just making a dent.
Mm-hmm. So is that something you work on separately from Nerd Nite, or is there a way that Nerd Nite, like...
Nerd Nite doesn't support that.
Okay.
Nerd Nite's completely different from like when I'm out, when I leave a bar and I leave Nerd Nite, I'm going to my garden or I go to my livestock and I'm around my chickens, my goats, my rabbits, my quail, my ducks. Aww. And I am just a whole nother person.
That's so sweet.
When I'm sitting in front of Nerd Nite, like, for a while, a lot of my worlds never blended. It was like, if you saw me here, you saw me here. But if you see me somewhere else, I'm like, hey, man, you go to a bar? Like, yeah, I live too. I felt like a teacher.
Oh.
You know, teachers only get seen in school, and then if you see a teacher outside of school, it's like, oh my gosh, you actually have a life. Yes, I really live and have a life and
that
go and do things.
Compartmentalization.
Yeah.
Okay, so how did you get into urban farming?
It was a childhood chore.
A childhood chore. Did you grow up on a farm?
No, I grew up with West Indian parents that had gardens and wanted to plant trees, and I lived in Florida, and in Florida, 70 degrees here now feels like what 96, 102 felt like down there.
In Florida?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Florida gets hot.
And we have all this humidity, and we just hold on to the heat here for 70 degrees.
What we feel here is nothing compared to what you feel down there. Florida's heat is that's a whole nother ball game.
I did experience some at Disney World, but...
Exactly.
But then it was also reflecting off all that pavement, too,
I was about to say, the
So...
thing that you have different with Disney is that it's pavement everywhere, but you also have fans and misters.
Yes, we did. I'm very glad. So,
I worked at Disney for a year, or well, not for a year, for a summer, and...
Did you dress up?
No, I wasn't one of those people.
One of those people. Okay.
I did something else. I was working with a private company, and we would host kids with special needs there.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, look at you. You've got a consistent track record of...
Caring about other people.
And animals, I guess.
People
I
and
assume
animals.
You're caring about the animals. Maybe you're using the animals to take care of the people. I don't know.
It's a little bit of both.
It's a circle of life, right?
I do goat grams, so I will.
Goat grams.
Yeah, it's like a telegram, but with a goat. You just pull up to somebody's house. I mean, but people pay me for it, so
it's not
so
like
it's
cute.
Free.
Oh my gosh, that's so cute. I know goats are so popular right now, which is so funny to me. I had a goat on our farm growing up. But it ate everything, including fences. We could not contain that thing.
Oh, man. I don't have that problem. I spend a lot of time with my animals, but, like, people, when they say, like, oh, your goats don't get out, I'm like, yeah, my goats don't get out, man. I feed them. I actually, like, feed them. I take care of them. I go out there. I talk to them. Like, it's things I don't record. As much as I record, as much as I used to do video production and audio production, there's things I don't record. But, like, if I was to one day show everybody, like, me sitting down on a stump and, like, like, dude, you're actually out here with these animals all day. Like, how do you not smell like this? Or maybe I do and I don't know.
Maybe you do, and it's okay, you know. Yeah, I love that, because it's high tech. You're high tech in so much of your life, and you're also high touch, and they don't have to conflict. They can go together. And I feel like that's how my life is too. I feel like so many people think technology detaches us, which it's a tool. Technology is tools. And it's all about how you use them. Do you use them to connect with other people, or do you use them to disconnect from other people?
People can't see me nodding my head, yes, but yes. Yes.
Like with this podcast. It's a technology, but I use it to meet cool people like you in person, where we get to make eye contact and have a good conversation. So how about that?
What's so funny about people in technology, sometimes they get mad at and not realize, like, you are the person that operates the tool. It's just like any other tool out there. If you don't use it correctly or don't use it properly, like, you can't get mad at the tool, get mad at the operator. So
I don't know. I'm really good at getting mad at my computer if it doesn't do what I want it to do.
You found a tool that didn't work properly.
Oh, man. Well, I'm really excited to learn about Nerd Nite. So I'm really glad that we got connected. I think we found each other on Instagram, just overlapping on some different local things. And so
I was looking for local people, and then I seen you on somebody else's page. And then it was like, oh, there's a podcast. Cool. I did a podcast. I could talk to this person and see about being a part of this podcast or learn more. And then it was just like, hey, could I be a guest? And we talk about Nerd Nite.
Exactly.
And then voila, here we are.
Yeah, that's the thing about people in podcasts. You know, they can have the attention span for long form content, right?
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
I absolutely love this. I might have to come give a talk or just listen to other people.
So definitely come and give a talk. Definitely come and listen to other people. And for anybody that's in the Louisville metro area or in Kentucky for that matter, find Nerd Nite Louisville, find Nerd Nite Lexington, find Nerd Nite Bluegrass on Facebook or Instagram. The link is always in the bio, or the link is getting posted to become a speaker. And if you are outside of Kentucky, go to nerdnite.com and search for your city and see which one is close to you, because again, there's Nerd Nites throughout the world. You might travel to South Carolina or North Carolina and find one there, and it just made me think of our annual meeting. So we're all gonna have like a meetup, like all the different nerd. We call it nerd bosses.
Yeah, the nerd bosses.
So
I love
all
that.
the nerd bosses are gonna meet in North Carolina this year.
The great convergence of nerds.
Yeah, that's right.
Not in Boston. Not where it started, in Boston.
No, not in Boston.
Okay.
What Big Nerd? I call him Big Nerd. Big Nerd Matt. He decided that we would do Asheville.
Yeah.
Because it's one of the growing sites.
Okay.
And it has all of the things that the different locations could come and like learn from. And then as far as like drivability, it's only like 5-6 hours for some people. And then anything beyond that is like you fly. So I might drive. I don't know yet. I'm still debating.
Yeah, I think it's like 5.5 hours from there.
I'm still debating, man. Once I stopped driving to Florida, everything was a flight for me.
Yeah.
I used to drive to Florida every year, and I think it was like 2 years ago that I stopped taking that 14-hour drive.
Well, we will have to talk some more about flights, because I'm all about that right now. But if you're listening to this, follow the Lou Review podcast on your favorite platform. I will be posting the podcast as a video on YouTube, but we're just recording it as audio. But if you wanted the transcript to go back over anything he said, it'll be there. You can follow me at Rosa Raves, and I will be posting about this in future episodes. So follow along, and your Instagram handle for Nerd Nite is
at Nerd Nite Louisville, at Nerd Nite Bluegrass, and at Nerd Nite Lex, Lex.
Fantastic. All right, thanks for listening, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.